evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 6th round of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. The Big Green Egg Dirt Derby at iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. Hi, and welcome to the Monday Night Racing pre-race show. I'm your host, Taylor Burris, and joining me is our pit reporter and my co-host for tonight, Justin Prince. And Justin, we are at the sprint car capital of the world, Knoxville Speedway, home to some of the best short track dirt racing that we'll ever see. And of course, later on this year, we'll actually see the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series make their debut later this season. But it's time to throw it back a little bit to street stocks here at Knoxville.
It's going to make things very interesting because some of the drivers feel like it could be the best race of the year. Some of them are still trying to learn the racetrack and find where they can get speed and find the best ways to try and make moves. This is going to be a track that's going to challenge our competitors tonight, Taylor, as well as a car combination that's going to also make it very difficult to try and make moves. It's going to be interesting to see which drivers make their way up to the front here in the dirt tonight.
It certainly is, and of course this track is full of history. Opened in 1878 as originally as a horse racing track, but as time progressed in 1960s, the first ever Knoxville Nationals was held here at Knoxville Speedway, and sprint car racing has been here at its finest. In fact, the Hall of Fame for sprint car racing is just located right outside the track. As we take a look on our Google Earth, you'll see the corners here. This track provides a lot of different racing grooves here at Knoxville compared to what we see at other dirt tracks across the country, Justin. This track provides different grooves where you can run it, but you also got to be careful because in the corners you'll see a little bit of a berm right there on the bottom of the racetrack that could cause, that seems at first like you can take the car and put it there. But in reality, that berm will push you up the track and cause you to have difficulty with driving here at this track.
I've seen several drivers in practice so far, Taylor, hit that berm and actually spin the car out, and some of them have been watching the tape to see which line exactly to take because this track, especially once it slickens up, is going to be very difficult to try and move around with and try and find the preferred line, whether it's on the bottom or whether it's up towards the Armco barriers, towards the top of the lines. It's going to be finding that balance tonight and making sure you don't hit that inside berm to make sure you don't lose too much momentum, especially when you go for a slide jump to try and make a move.
It certainly is, Justin, but we have a lot of great storylines to talk about. A little later on in the pre-race, we're going to look over the points as well as the rest of the schedule for 2021 Season 3. But right now, we are going to bring in our in-race reporter, who is going to be our special guest for the race for the Bryant Shock Technologies in order, Mike Clay. Mike, welcome up to the booth. You're at Knoxville in the dirt street stocks. How confident do you feel? As we make sure Mike is good. As we'll come back to Mike maybe here in a few moments, but let's go ahead and take a look at the point standings right now as we take a look here. Currently at the top of the leaderboard, Justin, we have Anthony Alfredo, who's been one of the strongest competitors, but Shane Van Gisbergen, who has 2 wins already this season, is currently sitting second with Adam Cabot, Matt Stolnick, and Stephen Wilson. But once again, we have to go towards that cutoff line. Ford Martin, Devin Henry, Mark Rabilis, DJ Cummings, and many more still within a shot of making it to the round of 13.
And was talking with a couple drivers about some of the pressure when it comes to the cutoff, in particular Devin Henry, and he mentioned a lot of the pressure towards his direction with that 4-point differential. He mentioned momentum is going to be key for this race tonight, but also is someone where he feels like it's an absolute privilege to be running well with this group, he mentioned. It's going to be difficult for him, to say the very least, though, to get the points, and it's going to be very difficult for some of the drivers to claw the way on forward to get up toward Ford Martin, as the pressure's going to be on in these next few weeks.
It certainly is, Justin, as we take a look at the rest of the schedule ahead. Currently, right now, we're almost pretty much right at past the halfway point of the regular season. After this week here, we go to Gateway with the super late models along with Road America, Chicagoland, and then we now complete in the round of 13, Justin. So only 4 races counting tonight left in the season before we get ready for a run at the championship.
which means you can't afford any mistakes, especially at a track such as this tonight. If you feel confident on dirt, this is the race, pardon me, that you're definitely circling on your calendar. If you feel more confident, say, on a road course, you're circling that race with the Indy cars in a few weeks. If you feel more comfortable in stock cars, you're circling Chicagoland as an opportunity to try and secure victory. There's different ways you can try and get the route done, but consistency is going to be the major key, Taylor.
Certainly is going to be the major key. And speaking of a major key player that could be a factor in tonight's race, we're going to bring in our in-race reporter, the Bryant Shock Technology in-race reporter of Mike Clay. And Mike, you're coming out here to race at Knoxville Raceway, the sprint car capital of the world and the dirt street stocks. How confident do you feel out there?
Oh man, what a question. I feel about as confident as I do, every other week going against these superstars. These guys have a lot more ability and track time than I do out here, and it shows. And it shows in my results and my showing in the point standings this season. So, look, I'm just out here trying to get some laps. I'm, following these guys around, learning from the pros, and we'll see. Maybe next season I can make a leap forward. But I got some practice laps in, so we'll see what we can do. My primary goal here, guys, is not to be a hazard, right? Just let's not cause any wrecks tonight. Let's go out, get some laps, and learn some things.
What have some of the things you've been learning throughout this practice so far in terms of your preparation? What have you picked up for tonight to make sure you accomplish that goal?
Yeah, so I ran some practice earlier today. I tried it on a clean track, about a 50% track about halfway through the race, and then of course at 100% to really give myself a challenge when the track is really, when there's a ton of rubber on the track. So, obviously, when it's clean, you can run a lot faster speeds for sure. It's a lot easier, of course, as the track gets as it gets later on in the race, it gets a little bit tougher, and you got to just keep the car under control. I don't want to crash it. I don't want to put it in the wall. But one thing I was working on was, can I get low? Can I run that low line even when the track's worn in, or do I need to be up against the wall? So I wanted to get some experience in both areas, just in the event that I'm lap traffic, or I'm competing in the back of the field here, just so I'm not causing any crashes and putting down some decent laps. So it's going to be really interesting for sure.
Well, Mike, before we let you go, we do apologize for the technical difficulties that just have happened, but we are once again live here at Knoxville Raceway, the sprint car capital of the world, for Monday Night Racing Season 3, presented by Tufco Flooring, as myself, Taylor Burris, and Justin Prince bring you all the coverage for pre-race before we turn things over to James Pike and Kenneth Bueno as they get ready to call all the action, all the storylines. One thing right quick, Justin, before we turn it over to them, is we were talking about a couple of the drivers. I was pointing out Justin Malillo and James Bickford, both very strong right now in the practice charts and running very consistent laps as we watch here as they work their way through these final few minutes in practice.
I know Malillo considered himself not a dirt guy, though when we were discussing things, he seemed surprised he was up on the board. In fact, his response on social media to finding out he was top 5, 3-letter word, how? But the drivers I'm keeping my eye on, Shane Van Gisbergen, he was very quick at the trucks at Bristol on the dirt. Also keep my eye on Joshua Slate. He considers himself a dark horse / underdog for tonight's race, which should make things interesting. And don't forget about Gabe Wood. His best career M&R finish came here at this track in the past. Can he do it again by getting himself good track position early on? That's the big question.
It certainly is going to be the big question, and of course this is a great opportunity for some drivers as we get closer as the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series gets ready to head on over to Knoxville Raceway here in a few weeks' time. So very exciting. Even though last year we did have the chance to run the trucks, it's still great to see some of these drivers come back here for this season and still come to this hallowed ground of Knoxville.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 6th round of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, the Big Green Egg Dirt Derby at iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. James Pike here, the voice of Podium Esports, joined in the booth this evening by my colleague Kenneth Bueno, with Ryan Bauer punching all the buttons in the virtual production trailer, and cameras this evening provided by Dougie Beard. We have been here before, Kenneth Bueno, in Monday Night Racing. We were here last season with the trucks of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Parker Kligerman went to victory lane that night. This is going to be a little bit different race, though, because it's street stocks. There's less power in these cars, so compared to the trucks, this is going to be more momentum-based and going to be more about how quickly can you get back to the gas and get down these straightaways around this circuit that is a half mile in length and can be pretty quick when you get down to it.
I think you really just read my mind there, James. The difference there between going from the Camping World trucks or the NASCAR trucks, now moving to the street stocks, and those cars are tanks. These guys can take a beating out of these things, but you said it there, momentum is going to be key. There's less horsepower in these race cars, so it's going to be all about positioning and how you can get yourself around this racetrack. And even then, we can reference the last dirt race we went at with the NASCAR trucks at Bristol Dirt. We're going to have less banking here at Knoxville. It's going to be a completely different challenge. You're probably going to see some multiple grooves develop as a result, but I figure going back to Knoxville in the sprint car capital of the world, we're definitely going to see a different experience unlike any other tonight.
This place is hallowed ground, no question, as we get set to line up the first of our two heats for the evening. Very quickly, we'll run you through tonight's format. This being a dirt race, we'll have two heat races, 12 laps apiece. Everybody will transfer, so the heats are solely to set the grid for an 85-lap feature that will have 3 green-white checkers if we need them. Let's go ahead and run through the grid for our first heat, and we will give you the rundown on where everybody is going to be, and it starts with Josh Slate, who very conveniently takes car number 1 to P1 with a qualifying time of 22 minutes and 5.04 seconds. TJ Majors starts in the second spot in this heat. Anthony Alfredo rolls off from third. Fourth, that's where you'll find Justin Balillo. Adam Cabot begins tonight from P5. P6 is where you'll find Anders Krohn. Brad Perez rolls off from the 7th spot. 8th is where you'll find Stephen Ellis. Will Rogers, defending champion of Monday Night Racing, is 9th, and 10th is Garrett Miller.
And behind them, the 28 of Ron Capps will start this heat from 11th with the Rusty's machine. Raja Karuth will start from 12th in this heat as well. Mike Clay, our in-race supporter, we'll talk to him later, but he'll start 13th. Steve Alfont will be 14th. 15th will belong to the 07 of Ford Martin. 16th to Shane Van Gisbergen, and Chad Reed, the 17th and final driver in this first heat.
17 drivers that will go around Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. This half mile, 0.8 of a kilometer circuit that opened originally all the way back in 1878 and became Knoxville Raceway as we know it in the 1960s. 8 degrees of banking in the corners here, and we go for 12 laps in these heat races for the 85-lap feature. Should be a lot of fun to see all the action in this Big Green Egg Dirt Derby, but we'll wait for Josh Slate to get us going. Pace truck lights are off, and they'll be getting the green flag when they get back towards turn 4, Kenneth.
And well, hopefully we'll see as everybody's still double file. It's going to be a lot of fun when we see the track start to wear out, and it's all going to start with this first heat. Pace truck is going to roll off. Joshua Slate, 1 and 2 for TJ Majors. The first row will lead us to the green flag in heat number 1.
Off they go in this first heat. You've got Slate to the inside, but Majors has already found a way to clear him. Good move from Majors to use that higher line to get around Josh Slate. So TJ Majors, your leader, and then Slate, and then Anthony Alfredo has made his way to P3.
You see a couple drivers already using the outside lanes, just trying to find some of that space here, James. I think we're going to figure that a lot of other drivers in this race are going to start to experiment. You're right on board with third place Anthony Alfredo, trailing behind the 2 leaders. So far, everybody, though, sticking all the way to that little mound on the inside lane. And for now, TJ Majors takes control as he did on the opening start.
Riding on board with Anthony Alfredo now, you see Josh Slayton Majors just out of his window. And immediately, the first thing I noticed with Alfredo, looks like he's just stalking Majors and Slate, trying to learn the lines and figure out where they're running on the racetrack and see if he can pick up a 10th here, a 10th there. That might not matter so much now in the heat race, but when we get to the feature later, it could be incredibly beneficial.
Yeah, and that's a place, James, where you can start to take notes of the guys in front of you. If you see them running that inside lane, you see how they position their car, you can hear from inside the cockpit, obviously your throttle input and engine sounds, but also the engine sounds of the cars right in front of you and of course behind you. So there for the 38 of Anthony Alfredo, he's kind of in prime position just to hold his zone and keep himself, but also to know every driver is going to transfer from each heat. So we're not going to have to worry about anybody going home in this race. So if you're Anthony Alfredo, and for any other driver in this race, you're probably going to just use these heats as a chance for trial and error, see how the track is, and try to build on what you learn in practice.
The fourth car in line amongst this train of leaders happens to be the 17 machine. That's Esports Racing League Season 3 champion Adam Cabot. And we now head to Justin Prince for our first report from pit road of the evening. Justin, what do you have on Adam?
When it comes to Adam Cabot, I asked him about how he's felt on his campaign. Remember, had a successful run at the Brickyard. He mentioned getting a win early in the season was certainly a nice surprise to him, and being locked in the playoffs, he said, takes the pressure off the rest of the regular season, allows him to have fun and get some important playoff points at tracks he knows what he can do at. For tonight, he mentioned that there were no real expectations for tonight. It was the goal of just going to go out, have fun, and see what happens.
Already looking to the inside of Alfredo, trying to take over what would be the third position, and just behind him, how about Brad Perez in the 30 machine, running nicely there along the top side, who just made his debut last week in Monday Night Racing, had a strong car on the opening half of our race with the Mazda MX-5 Miata Cup cars at Lime Rock Park. And even though he said on Twitter earlier tonight, and I quote, "I have no idea what I'm doing," don't necessarily know if he was telling the truth there, Kenneth, because he looks awfully quick here in this heat. Certainly early on in the evening, but Perez looks like he's got speed.
You know what? Deceiving the competition, that's a big thing when you go racing with a lot of other drivers. You want to kind of trick them out to think something, and then you prove to them that it's entirely different. For Perez right now, he's rocking the high line, and he's really making it stick. One of the few drivers, James, in this first heat with about 4 laps to go to utilize that high line, and pretty much everybody's starting to drift up the racetrack. You saw everybody near that mound, or at least right on it, and they're kind of near the middle of the racetrack. The problem here is Joshua Slade's been holding off this field after getting by TJ Majors, but if the lines continue to change, if the momentum seems to swing with about 3 laps to go here in this first heat, how can anybody else get by him?
Good question here, where I think you do make a good point that we're already seeing the street stocks come up off the bottom more so than we saw with the trucks when we were here in December. They're already up top, and I would imagine then that the Blue Brew is going to sit more centrally in the racing surface compared to what we had in December, where it was indeed closer to the bottom, and you had some people ringing it right around the cushion. But long story short, the cushion I think matters more.
It definitely does matter. We're probably going to end up seeing drivers all the way up to that cushion and that Armco barrier, just trying to make that momentum swing and go out. And speaking of which, for the race lead, or the heat lead, goes TJ Majors, and about 3 wide he'll go as Anthony Alfredo tries to duck his nose in. With about 2 laps to go, we've got a fantastic run of this heat.
2 laps to go. How about last lap in the heat? How about last half lap of the heat as Majors runs the outside, Slate runs the inside, and got a little bit too sideways, and he'll give up positions. He gives up P2 almost there to Anthony Alfredo, who I think is going to beat Slate to the line, but TJ Majors gets the heat victory. Alfredo was second, Slate third, Cabot fourth, and Brad Perez brought home 5th place in heat number 1. Good battle amongst that group as we take a look at the heat results very briefly and see where your favorite driver finished in this first heat race. Nothing too terribly crazy, but good work there from everybody amongst the top 5 to keep it straight. Slate, Majors, Alfredo, and company, and Malillo actually gets scored in P4, or actually rather no, Cabot P4, Brad Perez 5th, 6th was Ron Cap, Shane Van Gisbergen, Anders Krohn, Steven Ellis, Mike Clay, your top 10.
And then behind them from the first heat ends up with Roger Carruth in 11, Justin Melillo 12th, Will Rogers 13th, 14th to Ford Martin, top 15 to Steve Alfont, who went one lap down, and 16th and 17th to both Garrett Miller and Chad Reed. For the first heats, you look at the starting grid for the second heat tonight.
Second heat will be headed up by David Schildhouse. James Bickford starts second. Max Kinnon, DJ Cummings, Robbie Lyons, and Devin Henry in the top 6, the first 3 rows in the second heat.
And behind them, Stefan Wilson in the 25, defending winner from last week's race, the MX-5 at Lime Rock Park. He's going to try to go for 2 in a row. Gabe Wood will be 8th. 9th will belong to Garrett Smithley, who lines up alongside Preston Pardis, and Matt Stolnick, Brennan Brown to the 6th row here in the second heat.
13th will be Chris Wilner. Michael Massey will start high up in this field too and try and make things happen. Then Mark Rabillas, Kyle McFadden, and Drew Welker, your final starters for this second heat. Again, everybody advancing to the feature. This is entirely for starting position and starting position alone. We're not sending anyone home at the end of this heat race. We'll get everybody lined up for an 85-lap feature in Knoxville, Iowa, as the lights are off the pace truck. Drivers come around the front stretch and get set for that last pace lap to get everything geared up here. Currently in sim, it is right around 10 p.m. local time of the default day for iRacing, May 15th, 2021. Air temp 68 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 50 degrees Fahrenheit, winds headed to the north at 4 miles an hour, and 0% humidity in the air. So about as cool as you're going to find in the sim. Temperatures usually don't drop much lower than this. High grip situation then for the street stock. Should have a lot of room to wiggle around as we go green flag racing, and the second heat of tonight's Big Green Egg Dirt Derby for Monday Night Racing is underway.
Field fans out through 1 and 2 for the first time in this second heat. A nice run for David Schildhouse, controlling the field. Maybe not for long. James Bickford tried to use that high side, maybe give him that side draft, give a little bit of a bump, and he ended up on the outside for just a moment as they try to make contact for second. DJ Cummings was in the midst as you ride on board with Gabriel Wood. He's right in the middle of the Hornet's nest as they hit one.
Right on top of each other. Absolutely no room to give. And there goes DJ Cummings around in the middle of 3 and 4. Everybody spinning sideways. No yellow flags. We'll continue to say green flag racing. And that'll leave Schildhouse, your leader, ahead of Bickford. And looks like Devin Henry has managed to jump up into the 3rd position.
And we saw James in that first heat a little bit further back in the field. You couldn't necessarily tell that much, but a couple drivers are beating and banging each other. They were pretty much about wrecking, if not already wrecking, most to the rear of the field, and that's exactly what we saw. Just that one little mistake, and everybody behind starts to creep up. As you look at Devin Henry moving into the top 3 with a nice paint scheme. You see David Schildhouse continuing to lead, coming to 9 laps to go.
Schildhouse in control and out front by about 6-7 tenths of a second. It's varied here over the last few laps, but it's been pretty consistent. And everybody in that front 5 seems like they're just sort of clicking off lap times already. They've got themselves in a good groove. First battle, you have to go back to 6, where we saw DJ Cummings, who was the one who got turned around a little bit ago. He's in the first proper fight. You've got Matt Stolnick, who won the season opener with the Xfinity cars at Daytona. Garrett Smithley, driver for Rick Ware Racing, also in the mix here. And Chris Wilner with a pretty solid run. We haven't seen Chris up near the front of the field too much this season, but this is a nice P9 that he's got for him in the second heat so far.
It definitely is, and if he can continue to gain some positions, like you said earlier, it is not for going home or staying away from this race. It's going to be all about track position when you get to the actual feature. So if Chris Wilner can keep this up, he's going to be starting near up the front of the field or in the mid-pack, maybe better than he at least anticipated he was going to when he started near the rear of the field in the second heat. You see right now, James Bickford a little bit under fire from Devin Henry with about 7 laps to go, and I figure that these two, James, are starting to catch up slowly but surely to David Schildhouse, so we may end up seeing another 3-horse race for the heat win like we saw last time.
Could be a very good battle for the heat race victory if this carries on. Schildhouse, Bickford, Henry, Lyons, Stephen Wilson has made a charge to 5th now. Cummings is there. Stolnick and Smithley battling door-to-door for 7th and 8th as it stands, as we go on board with Devin Henry's number 77.
And Devin just trying to keep it smooth. That's exactly what these dirt races are about, James. And we saw it exactly at the Bristol dirt race a couple weeks back, where you just have to keep yourself stable with the steering position. You don't really want to turn it right or left too much. You don't really want to jerk the wheel. You want to kind of keep it steady enough so that you can kind of keep that slide in and not lose a lot of that speed. You're right on board there with David Schildhaus. He did lose a lot of speed, though, to James Bickford 4 laps to go as Bickford puts his nose underneath to turn 1.
It went down from 7/10 to 3/10 to 1/10, and they are door to door and wheel to wheel for the race lead in Knoxville. And Devin Henry is right there, ready to pounce on one or both of them if they get together and make some sort of mistake. They've got the top 3 locked down now. Good starting spots coming in this heat. And Justin Prince will come to you because I don't think a lot of people recognize that Devin actually has a tremendous amount of dirt experience. This is really more his playground than the asphalt scene.
Absolutely, and when it comes to his paint scheme, keep in mind, he's a personal believer that every car he owns in iRacing should have a different scheme. Every single one of those schemes, they are based on one of his father's schemes or is an exact copy translated to whatever car he's working on. This one, in regards to that, was his 1995 iteration. Very happy about the work he put into this respective paint scheme for tonight, where his dad had done his paint schemes for his modified midgets and helmets throughout his 25-year career. He also painted and pasted the lettering on his sprint cars during his time in his career.
Plenty of dirt championships that the Henry family has out in Arizona. We're seeing that speed. We've got 2 Arizonans in the top 3 in this race and a California club member in Bickford. So the West Coast representing very well in this second heat as they come through 3 and 4 for the last time in heat number 2. But David Schildhaus with a clean run, he's going to hang on and he will take heat number 2 of this Big Green Egg Dirt Derby ahead of James Bickford and Devin Henry.
That was a good adaptation there by David Schildhaus, because you saw he was losing a lot of that time when Bickford and Henry both were running that middle lane, while Schildhaus was kind of running that bottom where it was a little more slick. You take a look at the results. Schildhaus able to maintain his own over Bickford and Henry with that usage of that middle lane to defend. You see Robbie Lyons, Stefan Wilson to the top 5, and a couple other drivers, including, of course, Chris Wilner, who we mentioned a little bit earlier, to the top 10, and Max Kennan as well in the second heat.
Good work there. You have Schildhaus, Bickford, Henry, Lyons, Wilson, then Cummings, Stallneck, Smithly, Wilner, Kennan. Your results for heat number 2. Then Rabillas, Pardus, Welker, Brandon Brown, Gabe Wood with some work to do, and then Michael Massey and Kyle McFadden set to go. And we are ready for the big show. It is time to bring you the starting grid for the feature of tonight's Big Green Egg Dirt Derby for Monday Night Racing. TJ Andrews is your pole sitter. Got the victory in the first heat. David Schildhaus won heat 2, so he'll start second. Anthony Alfredo and James Bickford start 3rd and 4th. 5th on the grid will be Josh Slate, and 6th will be the 77 of Devin Henry. Adam Cabot starts 7th. 8th belongs to Robbie Lyons. 9th on the grid is Brad Perez. Stephen Wilson completes the top 10. Kenneth.
Ron Capps, so we saw him 11th in the heat. We'll see him 11th in this feature. GJ Cummings will be 12th, 13th to Shane Van Gisbergen, with Matt Stallneck in the 41 to 14th. Anders Krohn will cap off the top 15 on the grid, with Lean Stream's Garrett Smithley in P16. 17th will be Stephen Ellis. Chris Wilner, his 9th place position finish in heat number 2 will bring him 18th on the grid, with Mike Clay behind him in 19th, and Max Kennan into row number 10.
Raja Karuth will start 21st on the grid. 22nd will be Mark Rabillas. Justin Malillo begins tonight from 23rd. Preston Pardus showed a lot of speed at Lime Rock last week. He'll start 24th. 25th will be defending series champion Will Rogers, and driver now we can say for Sam Hunt Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He'll drive that number 26 Toyota Supra this weekend as part of his Race to End Hep C program. Congratulations to Will on putting that all together. Drew Welker starts in the 26th spot. 27th will be Ford Martin. Brandon Brown 28th, 29th to Stephen Font, and Gabe Wood 30th.
And the last 4 drivers on the grid, James, will be Garrett Miller in P31, Michael Massey, P32, 33rd to Chad Reed in the 22, and Kyle McFadden will be all the way back in 34th from the rear of the field tonight.
That's your 34-car grid for this Big Green Egg Dirt Derby. We take a look at this track one more time. This is Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa. Opened in the beginning in 1878, if you can believe. They've been racing around here for a long, long time. It's a half mile, 0.8 of a kilometer circuit that carries the famed black clay of the Iowa dirt on its surface. 8 degrees of banking in the turns. We go racing for 85 laps, just under 43 miles, just over 65 kilometers this evening. Drivers have one quick repair using a fixed setup car. Everybody running the same sense here at Knoxville. And we have 3 attempts at a green-white checker if we need them. The in-sim time has jumped just past 10 p.m. on the default day for iRacing, May 15, 2021. Temps pretty much identical. 68 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 49 degrees Fahrenheit track temp. That's as cold as I think I've seen it maybe ever in iRacing. It's chilly track for sure. Winds headed to the north at 4 miles an hour, humidity of 0%. So cool temperatures here, high horsepower, high grip. In this sense, that part's going to be in the driver's hands. It's going to be how they navigate the traffic more than anything else, Kenneth Bueno. I think that is going to determine so much of how this evening pans out.
It is, and if there's anything we can learn from the first 2 heats of the evening, it's that the lines can change in whichever direction, and any driver can use it to their advantage. As we see TJ Majors, David Schildhouse here, first row, 85 laps in the feature. We're ready to go from Knoxville.
We take off. Majors hits the gas pedal in the Big Green Egg Dirt Derby from Knoxville Raceway, and iRacing for Monday Night Racing is off and away. Majors got a good jump, as did David Schildhouse. Alfredo battling with Bigford for the second spot. And then look at this, 3 wide, back around 5th and 6th as there's contact a little bit further back.
Yeah, that's Devin Henry on the outside. Joshua Slate stuck in the middle with Adam Cabot. A big crash, though, behind. I believe that may have been, the 86 machine, and one car tumbling over the racetrack. Not sure whether we're going to see yellow flag, and indeed we do. So race control calls it. First yellow of the night on the first lap of the race.
That was Ron Capps who went around. We'll take a look at the replay momentarily, show you what happened. But as so often happens here at Knoxville, the apron in the berm that marks the edge of the apron can be tough to see, especially on corner entry. And that's exactly what happened with Ron Capps. He got tripped up there. Looks like there was actually some contact ahead of him with, I believe, Brad Perez. And looks like the green and black machine of Robbie Lyons, the 19 car, they get into it. Looks like Capps is trying to get to the inside of Perez. They bounce off of each other, make contact, and then Capps just has nowhere to go, spins back up into the racetrack in heavy contact for Will Rogers in the 65 machine. Had nowhere to go and just pile drove. Head-on collision there for Rogers right into Ron Capps in the middle of 3.
Oh man, that is a instantaneous, dramatic scene right here at Knoxville. You see as you run on board with the 53 of Justin Melillo, you'll see Ron Capps coming back up the racetrack as he spins. Mike Clay gets into him right there. He goes for a wild ride as well into the Armco barrier, and then from his view, he has nowhere to go but just to stop on the brake and hope that the seas part for him, and luckily they do in enough time. And the yellow gets thrown. Multiple drivers with significant damage, James. I think the good thing is that they've got that fast repair, but like I've said so many times, you don't want to waste it early.
You really don't want to burn that up, and I think Ron Capps largely has no choice, although this is definitely a track where if you've got damage and you can find a way to just roll and be all right with it for a bit and wait until you burn through your fast repair, it will absolutely pay dividends. That's a strategy point that we talk about often on Monday Night Racing. This is a series that makes frequent use of fast repairs. There are some cases where you can't really wait on using it, some cases where you can, and some places and combos where it's better to wait, and this maybe more so than just about all the rest of them might be the place where you want to wait the longest to use this, if for no other reason, because you're really not traveling all that fast here. So aero damage isn't really going to put you in that much of a hole.
And especially since the fact that it's a dirt track, you're also not going that fast with the low horsepower, and of course with the way that the dirt is, it's not necessarily always aerodynamically dependent. It won't matter though for most of the drivers in the first couple rows, because TJ Majors, off and away he'll go. We're on a restart lap number 6.
We'll take off. Majors gets us going. Back to green flag racing here at iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway in the virtual Knoxville, Iowa, with Majors and Schildhouse pacing this field. A good gap for Majors, maybe 2 or 3 car lengths. Schildhouse in second. Alfredo's found third. Cabot to fourth. And then James Bickford and Devin Henry are your first 2 to go door to door. And look who's making the charge. Maybe the last person the rest of this field wanted to see. Shane Van Gisbergen, who rattled off 2 wins in a row like it was nothing back in May, back to fight and already making his way towards the front.
Well, this is not certainly surprising out of Shane Van Gisbergen, James, because we saw the last time we visited a dirt surface at the Bristol Motor Speedway, he was doing this exact same thing, starting in the middle of the field, starting around near the rear, and then just charging through the field with the speed that he has. Obviously, he wasn't able to win that race, but the speed alone proved to a lot of other drivers that he's not just one trick pony. And you see up in front, David Schuthouse got turned by Anthony Alfredo. He's going to go around. I don't believe the caution's going to get waived because nobody else was involved. Schuthouse was running in second at the time, and the field spreads now as TJ Majors continues to pull away, James.
Most importantly, he spun outside of the racing line. Also of note, Van Gisbergen has already made his way up to second. He's going to try and clear Adam Cabot as they come down the back straightaway, working lap 9 of 85. But that's a terrifying sight for the rest of the field. If Van Gisbergen, who, mind you, started in 13th at the drop of the green flag, is already up to third, might not be too long before he's chasing down Majors for the race lead.
You see right there, he's going to use the inside, use the slider a little bit to clear Adam Cabot. Maybe not for long, as Cabot's going to pull the crossover. In this turn, James, we're going to see TJ Majors just start to pull away from this field as they stay side by side, because they're going to try and focus on each other. And you see right there, James Bickford, Devin Henry, Brad Perez, a long tail of cars are going to start to follow if they continue in this fashion. Luckily for Van Gisbergen, they won't, as you run on board with Garrett Smithley a little bit further behind, who has a front row seat of all the action so far.
And Smithley does have a very good action shot for all of this because he's got so much going on ahead of him. It's a little bit ridiculous just how much he has to deal with. The Smithley's got Josh Slade ahead of him. He's got DJ Cummings ahead of him. He's got Brad Perez right there. And you get a good sense of just how tough it can be, especially to see around the corner. These cars are so low to the ground, you don't really have a great vantage point. And with the closed roofs, there's not much you can do if somebody starts going around ahead of you, especially on corner entry.
Yeah, and these brakes aren't necessarily the best either. You have solid brakes, but by the time you're already pushing into it on the dirt, it's already not as effective. As I believe one more car also went around that might have been Josh Slade. I think I saw him get turned around, and he decided to keep going, at least for now. A couple more drivers making contact at this point, but it is not easy whatsoever, James, in the middle of the pack, because one small mistake can easily, one, send you around, or two, send you in another car like Devin Henry just did there.
Devin Henry and Adam Cabot are using up every single side panel they've got on their respective street stocks as they just try and beat the brains out of each other as best they can to take over second. Brad Perez, meanwhile, is sitting just behind all this, waiting, watching. And I was about to say that I didn't think Shane Van Gisbergen was getting away all that much, but it looks like as Cabot and Henry were able to battle, Perez was able to leapfrog Henry, and looks like Van Gisbergen was able to get away from all of them by just over maybe a car length or two.
He was able to get away, and you mentioned there Brad Perez. He's now moved up to P4 on the racetrack right now, just getting around this large pack. And we saw it there in one of the heats, James, that he was one of the first drivers to pioneer that top line in the first heat. Although it was only 12 laps, he was able to use it, and use it effectively. He did. He went all the way to the front, battling within the top three. And right now, I think he's using that to his advantage, just working that high side. He definitely likes it being a little more closer to the Armco barrier. That's where a lot of the speed that he's found has popped up so far here tonight, and now he's going to try and prey on the 17 of Adam Cabot.
Also of note here, Justin Prince, just as I take a look at timing and scoring, we talked about how great Gabe Wood's run was here in December, and even though he did not have a good starting spot in this race, he was 30th on the grid, he's already up to 11th. Justin Prince, how'd that happen?
Well, able to get his way through some of the incidents for one, and some of the traffic for another point, but one of the main things he emphasized was he didn't want to look to have a repeat performance. The reason I say that, James, is because he started in the back there too in the last time this series came to Knoxville. He wanted to be able to run well, qualify well, and have track position. He looks to be smart for tonight's race and told me he wanted to wait for the track to evolve and get slick before making moves. But he's been able to make the moves very early on to get himself the decent track position already in this one.
It's a terrifying thought for the rest of the field, Kenneth Plato, because if Wood's already this good, and we still have plenty of rubber to throw down on this racetrack, you can see the groove beginning to develop, especially on the inside, but we're also starting to see the line right around the cushion take shape too. So if Wood's already finding the speed, and we don't really have a well-developed cushion, could say a lot about how good he could be in a little bit as we've got trouble on the racetrack. Looks like Mike Clay is stuck up in the fence over in one of the turns, and it will bring out our second yellow flag of the evening.
It's been a tough night for Mike Clay so far. I mentioned that incident a little bit earlier with TJ Majors, and then, or not TJ Majors, they're 28 Ron Caps, and then you see it right there, contact. He gets turned up to the Armco barrier. We'll see it one more time with the 88 machine. You're right on board right here, just going into the corner. The contact is made right there, and then just going to the entrance, a hard hit to the barrier, at a meeting with the fence and his roof, and then around he went, just came to a rest right there on the outside wall. It's exactly what race control deemed that it was enough to signify the yellow flag so far.
It was Drew Welker in the 64th that got into Mike Clay, and just a tough run of bad luck for Mike Clay over the last few races. Seems like he just cannot catch a break, and very much follows the old racing adage that when bad luck hits you in motorsports, it tends to come in waves, and it doesn't stop after 1 week. It comes a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and I think that's exactly what's happened with Clay. The last few weeks have just been really, really tough for him. He's been caught up in an incident that seems like just about every chance he's had.
It's certainly been tough for him, but luckily enough for him, it's only the first 21 laps of this race. He's got some damage, and I don't believe he's burned off that fast spare so far here tonight. Indeed, he actually has. So he already burned that fast spare, so he's got some damage. However, again, like we said, it won't necessarily affect too much aerodynamically, so it'll be good for him that he can maybe hold on for now.
Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Big Green Egg, the world's largest producer and international distributor of the highest quality ceramic Kamado-style charcoal grill. BGE has spent over 40 years mastering the recipe for the best, most versatile, fuel-efficient, and easy-to-use grills across the globe. The Egg offers more cooking options than all other conventional cookers combined, and with an Egg, there's no need for a separate grill, smoker, pizza oven, or rotisserie device because the Egg does all this and more to perfection. For more info, visit their website at biggreenegg.com. Green flag back out, lap 24. Shane Van Gisbergen with the pressure now to the inside. Big crossover on TJ Majors. Huge momentum for Shane Van Gisbergen. And where does Majors go? Right back to the bottom to answer as Van Gisbergen rides the cushion up top.
The entire field was bunched up together. We saw about 4 wide to the midfield, and they're still about 3 wide as Anthony Alfredo tries to poke through the middle, and it is still game on up until the front of this field where Shane Van Gisbergen has found his way to clean air, and now he can just try to pull away from TJ Majors and the rest of the field. They're still 3 wide off turn 2.
Really good battles here once you get back to about 5th, 6th. Devin Henry, Max Kennan, Anthony Alfredo, James Bickford, Robbie Lyons, Stephen Ellis. You've got about 7 or 8 drivers that you could chuck into this as Alfredo bounces off Kennan. Those two came together for a split second that'll allow Bickford to get to the inside, and Gabe Woods down to the bottom trying to make tracks too.
They take advantage of all that you can get here, James, and this restart serves to be very potent for a lot of these guys. You see Bickford a little bit loose down low. He had some contact as everybody tries to slide up to the cushion. Look at Robbie Lyons trying to make that space. Roger Caruth to the outside wall, and they maintain 4 wide once more off turn 4, and a big crash once again.
Big crash there on, I believe, the back straightaway. Yellow flag is out. Rasha Caruth was one of them. I don't know who else was in there, but a lot of drivers struggling with damage. I think Josh Slate got a piece of it, but we'll take a look at the replay here, Kenneth, and see what happened. But I think you had it on the nail, or had the nail on the head there, that Raja got in trouble over the middle of what looked to be turns 3 and 4, and this just carried on onto the front stretch.
Yeah, right there. Just a space closing there between Caruth and I believe it was Joshua Slate there that he was just trying to get around. We saw with Robbie Lyons, he poked the nose in over Anthony Alfredo. That was a situation where it worked, and here is where it didn't. That's the 25 machine actually that got into him. Just the space closes in. You see Joshua Slate, he gets tagged as well. He goes straight for the inside wall. And like we're seeing so far here, James, the track is starting to develop. The line is moving up, and that means that it's only a matter of time before the space starts to close between the cars and the outside wall. That's exactly what happened there with Caruth.
And wild to think that was all really more the byproduct of the fact that everybody back there was at least 3 wide for about 3 or 4 rows deep. That's how crazy the racing was mid-pack. It was fine once you got to the top 5, but once you got back there, it was just everybody bouncing off each other like pinballs, and at some point it almost felt inevitable that somebody was going to end up catching the fence. Also want to remind you all that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you on Podium Esports, courtesy of our friends at Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. They listen to your needs and requirements and develop custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. Shane Van Gisbergen, race leader, which is about the last thing I think anybody in this Monday Night Racing field wanted to hear, because he's proven himself to be so adept on different race surfaces. One on the pavement at Watkins Glen of the Pro 2 truck, then went to the dirt track at Bristol Motor Speedway and got the victory there. So he's looking for 2 dirt race victories in a row. Is the champion of the Australian Supercars in 2016 and current points leader. Gets back on the gas, and he is away off and ahead of Majors, ahead of Brad Perez, ahead of Adam Cabot. And looks like Devin Henry is going to be the first to try and make the inside work on this restart, which comes on lap 30 of 85.
I think for the first run off turn 2, doesn't seem to be as chaotic as it was the last restart. And you see right there, the side-by-side action, the 10 of DJ Cummings trying to make the outside work on Devin Henry. You see Anthony Alfredo, the 52 machine of Garrett Smithley. It seems for now, maybe some 3-wide action, but mostly everybody got the medal the last time by. They do not want to be 4-wide once more.
And everybody immediately to the cushion as I saw Devin Henry try and go full jump ramp over the middle at 3 and 4 as Van Gisbergen smacks the fence for the race lead. That'll allow Majors to close it within a car length.
Just a small mistake there by Devin, just going to lose him so much time. And you don't want to be forced all the way to the bottom, because now at this time, that part of the track is just so slick. You can't really put in as much throttle as you would like. And you're seeing the battle right now develop between the top 2. Shane Van Gisbergen just trying to hold off TJ Majors. As you ride on board with the Majors, you see how much it is to wheel this car around, especially as the track is slickening up. And you see Van Gisbergen with a diamond approach going down to the inside and making it work.
Yellow flag out once again. Trouble for, looks like Josh Slate and company. I see Mike Clay. I see Ford Martin involved. We'll take a look and see where this all starts and where we get what I believe is the 4th yellow of this feature. But about 5 or 6 different cars yet again, and it looks like this may have actually been Justin Malillo and company, maybe a little bit ahead of him. We'll try and pinpoint where this genuinely begins, but trouble, actually no, Gabe Wood got some help. I think Gabe might be where this properly kicks off. There we go. Yes, Gabe Wood, I believe, is where we'll start our replay here, and we'll show what happened, see how this panned out, Kenneth.
AC just slid up into the outside wall. His car jumped and then tried to revert it back to the inside, and then got into a couple more drivers. You see, I believe Malillo got into contact. I saw Ford Martin getting turned around late in this as he rode on board. Just going to slide up. The 50 goes right into the wall, verts it back to the left, and then gets into the 12 machine. There goes Justin Malillo, a slam on the brakes, and no damage. But unfortunately for many others behind him, they end up with at least a lot of damage as they got collected in one of the biggest crashes we've seen tonight.
The active phrase in Twitch chat was OMG again from Justin Malillo, which I think says everything about the kind of night he's had. He's been deep in the thick of any sort of madness that we've had mid-pack, where there really just is not a lot of room, I think, to see, much less to race.
And you see it right there, just how scary it is. Stopping right in the brakes, drifting the car, and then right there, almost gets hit even more. And luckily, his Traction GG, his paint designed by Cosman, and Splash and Go, did not get a scratch on it whatsoever. So a fantastic job by Justin Malillo to clear all of that trouble and stay with a clean race car.
Colloquially, it's Ionishu per Google Translate. It's Iwaneshu, but Cosman, yes, of Splash and Go Graphics, a good friend of the iRacing community, and we'll send our shout out to this boy for all the work he does. Many of his paints we've seen on the broadcast.
It's fantastic. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, just say that we're getting ready to line up for another restart on lap 37 of 85 as Van Gisbergen gets on the gas. We're back to green, Kenneth.
And we're back to green once more, and you see again the field fanning out. Good start by the race leader here this time. Shane Van Gisbergen kind of able to clear himself and give himself a breath of fresh air ahead of the rest of this field. TJ Majors, though, under some large pressure because here comes Brad Perez, Adam Cabot, and Anthony Alfredo as Robbie Lyons got turned near the rear of the field. And I don't believe we're going to see yellow for that single car incident. Everybody up to the wall as Perez makes contact with Cabot.
Oh, there goes Cabot down to the inside, and he goes around. Garrett Smithley goes around. Is it going to be enough to bring out the yellow flag? Yes. And we go back under caution almost as soon as we went back to green flag racing for a big shunt there. We saw Cabot just about go maybe 3 or 4 lanes down from the very top to the inside of the track as the master turns the student, Alfredo, who's leading Cabot one to get into Season 3 in MNR, gets turned around there on the bottom and spun out to bring out the yellow once again.
It's something that I'm noticing now as the night begins to progress here, James. The fact that ever since the bottom just got so slick and everybody's been running up to the cushion, the track has narrowed in a sense. You see everybody wanting to stay up top because they want to continue all that momentum. And you saw it there with Cabot just kind of forced between the car underneath him, Anthony Alfredo, and the outside wall. And then he got that small tap, was enough to send him around. And then he, of course, goes all the way down in the middle of the racetrack and spins around.
So trouble again, we'll get these cars lined up, and as they get lined up, we'll remind you that tonight's broadcast and our midway race break is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the world of outlaws, and more. Shane Van Gisbergen, your race leader over TJ Majors, Brad Perez, Anthony Alfredo, and Devin Henry complete your top 5. 6th belongs to James Bickford, Max Kennedy 7th. 8th is where you'll find Preston Portis, Stephen Ellis, and Anders Krohn complete the top 10, Kenneth.
David Schothaus, after an early spin here tonight, he's back up to 11th on the racetrack. Stefan Wilson behind him in 12th. Ron Capps to 13th, also after a spin earlier in this race. DJ Cummings will be 14th. 15th will belong to the 50 of Gabe Wood with Adam Cabot. His spin sends him back to 16th. Chris Wilner will be 17th. Matt Stonek will be 18th. 19th to the 1 of Joshua Slate. And Steve Alfont in the 11th will cap off the top 20 at the halfway mark, James.
Ford Martin's 21st, 22nd is Michael Massey. Mark Rabillas rides in 23rd, and 24th is Robbie Lyons. Brandon Brown holds 25th, 26th is Garrett Smithley. Justin Malillo sits in 27th. 28th is Will Rogers. Drew Welker is the first car 2 laps down. 29th, Mike Clay, Raja Caruth, Garrett Miller in 30th, 31st, and 32nd. Caruth and Miller out of the race respectively. As we go back, green flag racing, we remind you that with over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Van Gisbergen got a good leap on lap 42 of 85. We are just now clear halfway. They hit the halfway stretch in the back straight as we get about 4 or 5 cars bounce off the fence. We've got 1 car around in the back of the field. Is it going to bring out the yellow flag? Probably so, because I believe it was Gabe Wood that ended up flipping out over in the exit of, I think, turn 4 to put us under the yellow flag once again.
Yeah, take a look at the replay here again. Just a situation of the track narrowing and a driver coming back down from the outside wall. That was DJ Cummings that got into Gabe Wood, and a big hit from Robbie Lyons there. Garrett Smithley got into it. The 12 machine of Brandon Brown. I believe I see Joshua Slate in there as well as you run on board with Robbie Lyons. He sends him right here. You'll see the contact right about here in the middle of the track, just trying to keep in the middle of the pack, and then all of a sudden you'll see Gabe Wood come out of seemingly nowhere, back up the track, bam, and sends him upside down.
Absolutely nothing that I think Robbie Lyons at that point, because you're such a passenger, you see it here. Lyons just minding his own business, running the bottom, trying to make sure he's in good shape, and then you start seeing everybody go sideways, and that's one where other drivers would have gotten on the mic and yelled, "Hold the brake, hold the brake, hold the brake." But even on dirt cars, with the lack of grip these tires have, you can hold the brake and still end up in trouble.
And I think that's when we turn back to that situation with Justin Malillo, just how rare situations like that are. You have to time it correctly. You have to be in the right place. You have to be at the right certain situation at the right time in order to make that work. And just for Malillo, it happened to work. And on the off chance, it did not work at all for Robbie Lyons as he went slamming into Gabe Wood. So unfortunate for many of those drivers as now they have a good amount of damage and they may end up using their fast spares at this point.
And remind you all that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Maconi Setup Shop, the home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From asphalt to dirt, Maconi Setup Shop's team of professional setup builders has it all. It's simple. You can't beat the best, so don't settle for the rest. For more information, visit www.maconisetupshop.com and grab all the setups you need today. I think as we get set to go green flag racing once again, this time it's going to be lap 47. Worth noting who's already used their lone fast repair in this race. Amongst the drivers of the top 10, Preston Bardis is the only one to burn through a fast repair. Ron Capps has used his. Matt Stolnick has used his up, as has Ford Martin and Mark Rabillis. That's the top 20. So most folks in the top 20 have not, and then you get past that, and pretty much everybody outside of Drew Welker from 20th on has burned through a fast repair. So we'll have to keep note of that as this race progresses. But back to green flag action on lap 47 as the front four get going, and look at Brad Perez right in the center of another restart battle. He's going to try and bounce off one car on the inside. Max Kennan in the 21.
And he'll make the pass work here, James. For the moment, he'll maybe look underneath the 30 of Anthony Alfredo, but a bunch of drivers in the wall. Devin Henry got struck, and now he spins around in the middle of the field. Will that bring a yellow flag? Yes, it will. And another caution will bring the field to rest. And this time, the 77 of Devin Henry is the victim of it all.
Henry went spinning like a top in a way that I've not seen another car get turned around tonight. Some people have gone up, some people have smacked the fence. Henry just went around, bounced off the fence, and ended up actually spinning himself out with the contact he made with that outside guardrail. So he goes around, got finished off, got a little bit of help from Anthony Alfredo, but then went right through the middle. James Bickford couldn't do anything. Looks like the 47 machine got a pretty good piece of him. That's Anders Krohn. Nothing that he could have done. Damage to Stephen Ellis in the 46, and Adam Cabot in the 17 also swept up in this incident on lap 47 of 85.
And a bunch of more drivers getting collected. You see there, Anders Krohn. He got into the tire barriers, or at least the pit road barrels. He's right on board with Stephen Ellis in the 46. You'll see it right about here. There's Devin getting spun around. He gets hit 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And actually, Ellis was the one that went into the pit barrels this time by, and not Krohn. I was looking at the 47, not the 46. As the 47 of Krohn actually is down pit road. He's the one that slammed Devin Henry in the middle of the track.
That's been the one, I think, telltale sign that somebody's coming in for a fast repair is if you nail somebody and T-bone someone in this race. We've seen it a few times. Pretty much everybody that's T-boned somebody else has come in and burned that fast repair up.
Yeah, and I think at this point, it's better to waste it now with 35, 36 laps to go rather than going very early in this race like a couple of drivers have already done so far tonight. So at least good for them that they can hold on to a fast repair this long and then move on to the rest of the race. I think that's going to help them to stay clean for the moment.
It's set to go green flag racing once again. See if we can get a string of it on lap 50. Now coming to 51 of 85. And Gisbergen with another solid jump. And yet again, the battle. This time, Anthony Alfredo, Brad Perez, and Max Kennan, the center of action.
And this is what I've noticed here on the most recent restarts. I've seen TJ Majors under a lot more pressure. Previously, we saw him just trying to chase down Shane Van Gisbergen, and all was well and dandy. But now the field is starting to come up as Majors completely slaps the outside Armco. He's going to lose that spot to Max Kennan, who goes by. Maybe even Anthony Alfredo, 2 for 1 here.
Anthony Alfredo is going to go to the inside of TJ Majors and tried to slide up in front of the 2 car, but couldn't get there. And Max Kennan all of a sudden is the man riding in P2 after Majors has held that spot for the vast majority of this big green egg dirt derby. Alfredo to 4th. Adam Cabot now trying to take over the 5th spot. He's side by side with Preston Pardis and David Schildhouse.
And they continue to be in this pack as he run on board with Schildhouse. He is not having a good time in this Hornet's Nest, just trying to work back up to where he was before he got spun. And Maxwell Kennan now just trying to catch up to Shane Van Gisbergen. We saw him finish 3rd in the Bristol Dirt Derby before, James, so he knows a thing or two about working these cars on the dirt surface. And as Shane Van Gisbergen goes well close to the Armco barrier, Kennan is trying to run him down.
It was not a good ride for Van Gisbergen that last time by, but even then, he was still faster than everybody else. It was a 24.0 to a 24.2, so Van Gisbergen continuing to stretch this out as one car decides to hit the dirt berm. I think that may have been Preston Pardis back in the 7th spot, so he might lose a little bit of time, but Van Gisbergen continuing to bounce off the fence and stretch it out on Max Kennan and TJ Majors.
At this point, James, it's just so slick down there that one mistake just sends the car completely to the left, and we saw that with Preston Partridge just going over that bump on the bottom of the racetrack. You're riding on board a little bit further back. That's DJ Cummings trying to make work of Stefan Wilson, and Ron Capps just trying to work his way back to the top 10. A good job to pick up from him. He's in the inside lane on James Bickford right now.
Bickford there to the inside as Capps now trying to make his way through. Also a great battle just behind this group, starting with Brad Perez in 12th, but he, Ford Martin, and Garrett Smithley are having a whale of a show as they enter turn 1. Contact between Smithley and Martin, but good stuff all the way around, especially at the back half of the top 10.
I think that's what we needed to see, James. Just let the field stay under green here after the restart, because we had a bunch of those restarts where everybody's packed in, everybody's trying to go for as much as they can. Now all of a sudden you have one little bit of contact, sends one driver around, sends more drivers into it, and then it brings the field back to rest and completely disrupts the rhythm that these guys have been building all night long. Now's that chance to build it back with 29 laps to go. If you can stay green, this is probably the prime time for most of those drivers to get that muscle memory working again.
Again, Van Gisbergen, I've noticed this. He's tail slapping the fence on corner, well, rather center of the corner here. But long story short, isn't afraid to use the right rear quarter panel of his car to get a good run on corner exit. And that's part of the reason why he's been able to stretch it out over just about everybody. The only person that had a lap in the same zip code as the 97 last time I was Adam Cabot, who currently sits in 4th.
And one thing we're seeing out of Adam Cabot, he's walking the inside lane as opposed to everybody just running the top, and he's running pretty much all the way to the inside. That's pretty much as far as you can go without going over that little hill on the bottom of the racetrack, and he's making it stick right now as he's aiming to make work of TJ Majors and Max Kennan. Now here comes Tate. TJ Majors with a send down low. Cabot also doing it as well. Perhaps 3 wide, but not in enough time. Yellow flag comes out once again.
Yellow flag is out. Brad Perez is the one in trouble in the 30 car. We'll take a look, see what happened to him. But another yellow flag with 25 laps to go. And Perez, I believe, got stuck, shall we say, as the replay will show us. Stephen Wilson and DJ Cummings came together a little bit ahead of him, and that's really where this incident starts.
And you'll see it right there, just trying to make it work. There's DJ Cummings. He gets into the 25 machine, and then he gets sent around. There goes Garrett Smithley behind the inside. Perez nowhere to go, and a wild ride for the 25 machine. He goes up in the air. I think that's the second time tonight, James, we've seen a driver go either up and over or up in the air. And just like we've seen Malillo get by the drama in the front of him, he's going to do it again, this time by with more space.
OMG times 3, I guess, maybe in Twitch chat. As he survives, Justin Prince, what do you have for us?
Now, when it comes to David Schildhaus, one of the main things he's emphasized, well, on the radio at the very least, has been the bumps. A lot of bump, bump, bump over the radio with how bumpy this surface is getting for some of these drivers. He mentioned, though, before the race to his viewers on his side of things, where not many laps have been turned for this racetrack for tonight. He thinks the track position overall will be critical. And he mentioned it would be tough to move around. And we've seen that tonight where if you're able to get yourself to the top, you're in a decent spot. It's just been the difficult part, James, of keeping yourself off the wall.
Well, or knowing how to use the wall to your advantage, which I guarantee we're going to see a few more drivers do. Van Gisbergen's already jumped up there and gained a few tenths off of bouncing off the fence, and he won't be the last one. Restart's going to come on lap 63 of 85 in this big green egg dirt derby. Working our way towards 20 laps to go as Van Gisbergen stands on the gas pedal, and we go back to green flag racing at iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway.
That was a good start, James, by TJ Majors. He's going to use the slide job on Max Kennan. He's going to make it work as they both made contact. And look for Adam Cabot in the 17. Here comes Preston Pardis as well. Almost about 3 wide as they head back to turn 3 as most try to use the outside, still to their advantage as Van Gisbergen tries to pull away.
Van Gisbergen went all the way to the bottom to try and get a good run off the corner, and as they come around to complete this first lap, it was a 24-2 to a 24-4 or 5 for everybody else, but Adam Cabot was the one who had the speed to compete with SVG on that last green flag run. He's already cleared Max Kennan now, looking for second on TJ Majors.
And Majors is just going to use that defense right now, utilizing the inside. That's going to lose him a lot of speed, though. Now walks in Anthony Alfredo, the 38 iRacing street stock. Now is going to move down to the inside of Maxwell Kennan. About 5 cars here, James, before you get to Shane Van Gisbergen. And now the rest of the field going to tail by. So I think this is good news for the 97. Just let everybody else do the work, and I'll pull away. I'll come back with the win with 20 laps to go.
Van Gisbergen was 0.3 of a second faster as Majors and Cabot continue to clash with one another and burn time, as it looks like Gabe Wood might have gone around a little bit further back, but we'll stay green flag racing as the 2 and the 17 continue to duel.
And they continue at it, just trying to search around the racetrack. You heard what Justin said there. It's been a lot of trouble for guys to move around the racetrack because, of course, you were using the inside to start this race. Then it's looking up. You start moving up and up and up until you get to the outside Armco barrier. And then by that time, everybody's already used that outside lane to their advantage. So now you have to search back down, try to find where the sweet spot is. And for many, it's all the way back down to the inside lane where they started this race. That's Cabot, TJ Majors, and Anthony Alfredo trying to make a trifecta work down there as you ride on board with Preston Pardis.
Pardis working for P5. He's just behind Max Kennan and TJ Majors on that high line. And here comes Cabot trying to pinch Majors up top. Anthony Alfredo's just sitting there waiting for something to happen amongst this group as Van Gisbergen has stretched his lead out to just over 2 seconds. And there goes Cabot, who goes clear of Majors as Alfredo gets turned just behind them all. Is that going to bring out the yellow flag?
I'm not sure, but he's backing up on the racetrack. Even more contact with the 11 of Alphonse. I believe Gabe Wood trying to make the space work. More drivers getting collected, but I believe... Actually, no. Yellow does come out with 17 laps to go, James.
The yellow flag does come out here with just under 20 laps to go, coming to 15 laps to go, and there was a lot that happened there, so we'll take a peek and try and break this all down. But I think if we're running this back from the beginning, this is Max Kennan and maybe Preston Pardis. No, it's Kennan and Majors who get together, but Pardis and Kennan's contact is really what sets this off.
Yeah, it just made that slight bit of contact. We've seen it earlier in this race to see the 11 of Alphonse going through. And you'll see it once more as Preston Pardis just slightly gets into him, then unsettles the 21. He travels down the racetrack, and then as the 17 sliding back up, or actually the 38 sliding back up, and he gets collected, he almost gets hit there by Ron Capps, and then he tries to back his race car up, and then he gets hit by more cars, and then at that point you have pretty much a pileup coming out of the corner. You definitely need to slow the field down, because you see right here from Ron Capps' view, he's only going to get at least a midst of what happened there.
Yeah, you just saw the chain reaction come in once it started between Pardis and Kennan. It just seemed like everybody sort of trickled in. The field was spaced out enough to where something was going to go at some stage. But lights already off on the pace car. We're going to get set for the restart on lap 71 of 85 inside of 15 laps to go at Knoxville.
It's going to be a big restart here, James, because we've seen Shane Van Gisbergen pull away so many times. He's setting the fastest laps on the racetrack. So if there's anywhere that you're going to attack, if you're Adam Cabot, TJ Majors, Kennan, or anybody else in this field, you're going to have to utilize this restart with 15 laps to go. Time is starting to run out. You got to do this at this point.
Race truck is off, and Gisbergen gets away nicely. Cabot now with that outside lane in second. Can he do anything, or is Majors going to send it all the way down to the bottom and maybe try and clear everybody to try and put the 2 machine up towards the front? It got at least even there with Van Gisbergen, but couldn't maintain it, so he'll go to the inside and try and follow the tire tracks of the 97, but not before the yellow flag comes out again.
One car went around in the middle of the track. More cars getting collected. I believe that's Brad Perez with heavy front end damage. You see him in the back of your screen. There's the 38 of Alfredo. His night has definitely gone downhill since that first incident. You'll take a look at the replay. You see the 10 of Cummings, the 41 of Stallneck. You'll see it here in the middle of the field. And at this point, James, we're just seeing it again and again, just over and over, where everybody's in a pack, somebody makes contact, sends one driver around, and it's a domino effect. Look at that pile up to the outside wall.
Yeah, Ford Martin, I think, is the first one that properly went around, but it was poor Brad Perez who absolutely got the worst of this. He managed to clear the berm and then clip the 47 machine of Anders Krohn, and the combo of jumping over the berm with that contact to the rear quarter panel sent Brad for arguably the wildest ride there. I think he bounced off of Josh Slater, one of the behind-the-wall machines in that too, or was that James Bickford? That might have been James Bickford, actually, but even still, big wild ride there for Brad Perez.
So can we introduce a flip counter? Because I think we've reached that point tonight, James.
Maybe. Not a bad idea. But before we talk flip counter, let's talk some of the upcoming events coming in the world of Podium Esports over the course of the next week. We're back on air on Wednesday night for the finale of Series 6 of PCA Sim Racing from the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. If you speak Italian, if you speak English, that's better known as Imola. And the broadcast will be in the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel at 8 p.m. this Wednesday night. Then Thursday night, we find out which 70 drivers advance to the second round of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series for 2021. Final race of round 1 is at Dover at 9 p.m. on the Podium Esports Twitch channel this Thursday night. Monday Night Racing is back on air next week with the super late models from Worldwide Technology Raceway. You'll find that on the Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Podium YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook pages from 8 p.m. next Monday night, and then Coke Series action and MSRA Premier Series action 2 as we go back to green flag racing. Shane Van Gisbergen's got 10 laps to wrap up this big green dirt derby.
He's going to slide directly to the inside, make a slide job. Here comes Adam Cabot. He took well advantage of TJ Majors' mishap on that restart. Majors going to try to retaliate, make space up top. They'll both be side by side before Max Kennan tries to make a look as he run on board with Ron Capps. Coming to 9 laps to go. Time is running out, and Cabot's going to try to run down Van Gisbergen along with the rest of the field about 3 wide.
Can Adam Cabot run down the race leader, or will Max Kennan have something to say about that as they continue to go 3 and 4 wide a little bit further back? One car spins off to the apron that will stay green flag racing as TJ Majors has managed to make it back to the top side of the 17 machine, but he bounces off the fence, and that might give Cabot the clearance he needs to go outright chase after Van Gisbergen.
And we saw that before the Bristol Dirt Derby, James. Heartbreak for TJ Majors. He runs up front, tries to be consistent, then gets a slap of that outside wall, and then it just kills his momentum, and he gets swallowed by the rest of the field. Luckily enough, he does not lose as much ground as now he's under pressure from Max Kennan. Shane Van Gisbergen trying to work the top side. He's right on board with Schildhouse. He may put himself in this fight as well.
David Schildhouse has done a nice job climbing back up through this field after being caught up in an early incident. He's up to 6th. Good battle with Preston Portis there. Meanwhile, Cabot was a 10th faster than Van Gisbergen that last time by. He's got the car to do it, but does he have the time? Working our way towards 5 laps to go at Knoxville.
I think if he had this a little bit earlier in the night, James, it would have helped his case, because by this time he probably would have been closer to the rear bumper of Van Gisbergen. But at this point, coming to about 6 laps to go, you don't have much time left, and the time clicks down very quickly at these dirt racetracks. It's fairly short, it's half mile, so it's about 24 seconds. In a blink of an eye, you've already completed a lap, and the 17 just has to keep putting this pressure as everybody tries to tally for position behind him.
Big slide in the center of the corner for Cabot. Van Gisbergen got around that low line well. Looking at lap times as they come across the stripe again. A 3.88 to a 4.90. Another 10 that Van Gisbergen is able to pick up on Adam Cabot. The lead's now out to just over 1 second as we work the final 5 laps of tonight's race.
And for the 90 of Van Gisbergen, it's just all about clicking these laps down. We saw it throughout most of this race. Ever since he took the lead, he has not looked back. He's been pretty much flawless throughout this racetrack, even as it's developed. And you see it there. He's not slapping that outside wall anymore, James. He's moved back to the inside to block Adam Cabot's way and gain some of that momentum. I think he realized that Cabot and a lot of others were faster down there. That's where Van Gisbergen's trying to defend.
Van Gisbergen defending. He was faster by a hair that last time by. Coming towards 3 laps to go, and everybody at this point pretty well spaced out. Not too many good battles outside of maybe 13-14 between Justin Melillo and Anthony Alfredo and Brad Perez.
And actually may have been a battle back there, as I believe one car got contact as TJ Majors was trying to fight for position. Ron Capps loses a lot of ground. He's going to fall behind Matt Stolnick into the top 6 as you're on board with David Schildhouse. And at this point, Van Gisbergen is going to come from 2 laps to go here at Knoxville.
Clean green laps, and Shane Van Gisbergen will pick up victory number 3 in season 3 of Monday Night Racing. Nothing crazy, but we've seen wilder stuff happen here at Knoxville before.
We definitely have. You see some lap traffic. That's Robbie Lyons down low. Not enough, though, for the 97. He's going to work to the bottom and take the Maconi setup. 1 to go from Knoxville.
White flag at Knoxville in this big green egg dirt derby, and Shane Van Gisbergen got to the front early on from the 13th position on the grid and stayed there, beat everybody back off of restarts, and is driven away from Adam Cabot in the late going. And even though they've traded lap times, that 97 machine has been just a hair quicker in these final handful of laps, and it's Shane Van Gisbergen that will come off of turn 4 to win the big green egg dirt derby at Knoxville.
What a fantastic job. After winning on the dirt earlier this season at Bristol, able to defend his crown, and he doesn't have to deal with these dirt races no more. He's undefeated on the dirt this season because we're not going to visit it for the rest of season 3 of Monday Night Racing. So what a way to cap it off for the 97. Straight dominance in the second half of this race. And how about Adam Cabot, Max Kennan? A fantastic segment in this top 3 as well.
Good run there indeed for Max Kennan. His best finish since he went to victory lane at the street stocks at Rockingham back in the late going of season 2. And he certainly will take the points. It's been an interesting points night, or interesting point season really for him as they carry on. But let's take a look at the full field rundown. Tell you where your favorite driver finished up this evening. SVG comes home with checkered flag number 3 of the season as the virtual fireworks light up the night sky at Knoxville Raceway. Van Gisbergen, your race winner, ahead of Adam Cabot, as Max Kennan was able to come home 3rd. 4th went to TJ Majors, and David Schillenhaus completes the top 5. 6th went to Matt Stolnick. Ron Cass was 7th. 8th went to Garrett Smithley. Preston Pardish was 9th, and 10th belonged to Gabe Wood in the 50 machine.
Devin Henry ends up in 11 at the end of the night. Justin Melillo, a lot of close calls. I think it's fair to say that he's smiling knowing he survived this race and finishes in 12th after starting 23rd. Anthony Alfredo, a promising early run after starting 3rd, and some incidents puts him back to 13th, as well as Brad Perez. Early promising run for him as well in P14. DJ Cummings ends up with the top 15 here tonight from Knoxville. Drew Welker will be 16th, 17th to the 07 of Ford Martin. Stefan Wilson will end up 18th. Michael Massey to 19th, and Stephen Ellis in the 46th. Complete your top 20 from the Knoxville Raceway.
21st is Anders Krohn. Chris Wilner finishes in 22nd. He was the last car on the lead lap. 23rd went to Robbie Lyons, the first car 1 lap down. Mark Rubilis was 24th. 25th this evening belonged to Steve Font. James Bickford came home 26th. 27th position was where you'll find Garrett Miller. Josh Slate finished in the 28th position. 29th belonged to Mike Clay, and 30th went to the 12 of Brandon Brown.
Defending champion Will Rogers had a rough night, 46 laps down in P31. Roger Carruth ended his night early after a big crash on the front straightaway. He's 32nd. Chad Reed and Kyle McFadden, I don't believe, took laps here tonight. They 33rd and 34th year on tonight's running order.
There's your full field rundown for this big green egg dirt derby. We turn our attention now to your podium finishers, and we'll start with the man who finished in 3rd, Max Kennan. You're up on the podium, I believe, for the first time since Rockingham back in the spring, and also your best finish since Rockingham in the spring too, back in season 2. We just mentioned that on the broadcast before you came on. So you get back up in these races, and anytime you're chatting at the end of the night constitutes a solid run. How did it play out from your perspective?
It was pretty good. I got wrecked in the heat, and I started 20th, and I knew it was an 85 lap race. I knew that really late in the run, the track, as it progresses, you could run the bottom and just be easy and slow on the throttle. Kind of like Bristol earlier this year when I finished 2nd, which was this year. So I'm going to correct you there a little bit. But
this year, yeah, they all run together at some point.
No,
you know?
it's
all these dirt races, man.
Yeah, and yeah, it was fun. It's just I don't know what Shane's got, but everybody else does not have what he's got when it comes to dirt. I'm telling you, he's killing us.
You take this, though, and I think especially now, we have to start talking about the playoffs. We have to start talking about the cutoff. We have to start talking about the fact that you're in a really good shape coming into this year. You came into tonight 3rd in points. You're going to consolidate that over the course of this evening, and it's almost to the point where you don't even have to worry about trying to win a race, although you certainly would like to win before the playoffs start. But having a good momentum surge going into the playoffs, I have to believe, is got to be big for you, no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, compared to last year, my first season in this thing, I was always on the cut line, always fighting for that next spot in the playoffs, but I'm definitely not letting off the gas when it comes to the playoffs. I wouldn't say I wouldn't have to worry. I could kind of take a breath a little bit, but I'm certainly not going to stop fighting for the lead and pushing those boundaries.
And so, what do you think about when you think about where we head next week when we get to Worldwide Technology Raceway? We get to go to Gateway, and not only is it the late model, but it's the new super late model that arrived back in March.
I would say definitely laps and laps of practice. I feel really comfortable behind a super late model, and I've been running a lot of those races here recently on the service. So we'll see how that goes. I just feel like a lot of guys got to get some laps in because both corners are different, and you just got to know when to get on and off the throttle there. So it'll be a challenging race for sure.
Should be very, very intriguing to see how it all pans out in the Gateway to the West. But Max, thanks for the time. Congratulations on your podium finish, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday night.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
We will go ahead and shuffle our attention to Adam Cabot, but before we do, apologies, we will not be able to get Shane Van Gisbergen this evening, so apologies that we don't get a chance to chat with your race winner, but we turn our attention now to Kenneth Bueno, who has our runner-up for the evening, Adam Cabot.
Here with second place finisher, the 17 car of Adam Cabot. And Adam, I figure for many, this race was going to be all about surviving. You got the tanky dirt street stocks at a track like Knoxville. The track continued to change, and I must wonder that you feel good, at least tonight, knowing that not only you come up with second, but you end up surviving after all the carnage we saw over 85 laps.
Yeah, I do feel good about that. I wasn't really sure what to expect going in. It was nice to see that multiple lines did come in, but man, Shane is just like on a whole nother level here. I was really excited during practice right before the race. I figured that once the track got really wore in, there was a bottom line that's really, really hard to run. But if you get down there before everyone else does, you can make up a bunch of spots. And that's what I did after I got wrecked. I was about like 20th or something and just started hooking the bottom like that and pretty much instantly got up to the top 5. But the guys up front caught on pretty quick and they moved down there too, and was still able to get up to second. But like, I don't know how Shane is, I don't know how he's that fast, because even the laps he was running that didn't look fast, that looked like he was messing up or not running right, he was still pulling away from me. So he's definitely doing something special. I mean, he was insanely fast at the Bristol dirt race too. I mean, I knew he'd be pretty much unbeatable on some of the road courses, but I didn't realize he was a dirt oval specialist too. So congrats to him, and yeah, we'll take P2, but I was really hoping that I'd be able to get up there and steal that winner from him.
Well, nonetheless, it was blistering speed from your 17 car here tonight, and you mentioned it when the track was starting to wear out. You found that inside lane, you found some of that extra grip, and you were able to find a lot of speed to catch up to the front of this field. How was it from your perspective as the track started to wear out? Because we saw everybody down low, everybody move up to the middle, everybody slamming the outside Armco barrier, and then just trying to search for grip. How was that for you behind the wheel tonight?
Yeah, I knew my strength would be when the bottom came in. For whatever reason, this track, Bristol, pretty much all these dirt tracks, whenever that little strip of grip at the bottom develops, I'm really good at rolling that bottom and using that to my advantage. So when the track is more highline dominant, maybe tonight was like 4th or 5th best, I would say. But yeah, I knew that if we ran enough laps, the cautions were getting frustrating for a while, because the more laps that we could run at this track on green, I knew would be a benefit to me. The quicker we could get that bottom working there. But yeah, I felt like I was the fastest car on the track up until I got it to second, and got a quick reality check from Shane up there still pulling away from me. So again, congrats to him, and yeah, we'll take a P2 any day.
Well, I know that you're going to be locked into the playoffs nonetheless. You're winning Indianapolis, secured that. But we're going to turn up the speed. I think that's going to be some good news. We're going to turn up the horsepower, turn up the speed as we move the super late models to Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. How do you figure you're going to fare there? What are your expectations for that race next Monday night?
You know, I feel pretty optimistic just because we're finally getting back in a stock car in a paved oval, but I haven't driven the late model in probably make me feel old, probably like 9 or 10 years since when I first started doing iRacing, and that was the Class D car. So The new late model looks like it's a lot of fun to race, and Gateway is a pretty fun track. So I'm feeling good. I think it'll put on some good racing there.
And hopefully going to see you putting that good racing to use and putting on a show next Monday night. Adam, congratulations on your second place finish here tonight from the Knoxville Raceway, the sprint car capital of the world. And of course, we wish you the best of luck moving forward to Gateway next week. But congratulations tonight.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Adam Cabot comes home in P2 with a blistering fast, a dirt street stock, and ends up coming home in the middle of the podium, James.
And Shane Van Gisbergen, your race winner again. Apologies, Shane wanted to send his apologies on that he couldn't make it on for post-race interviews, but very excited to get victory number 3 in this season. He's the only driver in season 3 of Monday Night Racing to already be sitting at the 3-win mark. And as you start looking at points, only 3 races left until the playoffs for season 3 begin. It's the Super Late Models at Worldwide Technology Raceway next week, followed by IndyCar at Road America. And then we take the Xfinity Series cars to Chicagoland at the beginning of July to round out the regular season. And you look at some of the names that are near that cutoff line, and Max Kennan in particular, who was only 15 points clear of the cutoff. Really good run for him tonight to come on P3 and get a big bag of points. And then you had some mixed runs from some of the other people that were in the mix and around. Garrett Smithley had a decent car, but didn't end up all that great. David Schildhouse had a really solid run when he needed one. It's going to help his point standings. Robbie Lyons was up there and then wasn't up there. Didn't have a great run. Gabe Wood bounced back and forth, and ended up with the top 10. So we're going to see some shuffling, I think, in this point standings, and it didn't really feel like it did all that much to clear up the picture around the cutoff line, which is really what matters here as we work our way towards Chicagoland, Kenneth.
You know what, James? We're probably going to be looking at this point standing segment throughout the entirety of the regular season. I don't think we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 races from now that we'll actually know who's going to be who in the playoffs. It's still going to be very close. And you mentioned there, a lot of drivers are good runs, especially David Schildhouse, building those points after a good finish at Lime Rock last Monday night. That really just pretty much rocketed him up through the field in the point standings. And you got to also think of guys like Gary Sexton. No belief he showed up tonight, didn't put in some laps or wasn't able to make the race, unfortunately, so he's going to lose some points. Some other drivers are going to start to get that headway. They're going to start to push themselves in. Also mentioned Maxwell Kennan, his finish in the top 3, also going to put him well in the points tonight as well, so that's going to help. And I figure when we get to the final 3 races, things are going to start to tighten even more. With the combos we have, I think we're going to have some fairly exciting racing when we get to the next couple weeks.
Next week in particular intrigues me because we know that with most stock cars that Worldwide Technology Raceway is one of the very few places that you have to shift. And I wonder if that's going to apply to the super late models as well. And again, the new super late model is what we're going to be using, the one that came out in March of this year, the updated one with the Gen 6 body. So we're going to see that in action for the first time on Podium Esports airwaves, and that should be an intriguing one to keep your eyes peeled for when we get to the Gateway to the West next Monday night. Before we get there, though, time to tell you about a few events that are coming up in the world of Podium Esports, and we get back to action on Wednesday night. We've got the Series 6 finale for Porsche Club of America Sim Racing from Imola. You'll see that broadcast coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel. It's followed up Thursday night by the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series Round 1 finale. We chop the field down to the top 70 across our split and the second split, which you'll be able to see on STN Racing's Twitch channel. But we'll be live from the virtual Dover International Speedway at 9 p.m. on Thursday night. You can see that all on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. Monday Night Racing is going to head to Gateway, as we said. We talked about that. We're heading to Worldwide Technology Raceway next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Podium 2 Twitch, as well as the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. And then next Tuesday night, it's the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. They return from a 3-week hiatus and head to the Pocono Mountains. Pocono Raceway is where they'll be. Broadcast will start at 8:30 p.m. June 22nd, next Tuesday, on the iRacing Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube pages. And then the MSRI Premier Series is in action from Road America the day before Independence Day in the United States, July 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. Time to wrap up our coverage from iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa, and wrap up Podium Esports coverage of the Big Green Egg Dirt Derby for Monday Night Racing. For Ford Martin, Paul Sutton at MNR, for Eric Messer and Taylor Burris manning race control this evening, for Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore behind the scenes at Podium Esports, for our producer Ryan Bauer, our pit reporter this evening Justin Prince, the pre-race host Taylor Burris going double duty this evening, our camera builder Dougie Beard, and for my colleague in the booth Kenneth Plato, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of Monday Night Racing. We look forward to seeing you Wednesday night for PCA Sim Racing and Thursday night for the finale of round 1 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series from iRacing's virtual Dover International Speedway.